This is Impact with Don Wenner.
All right, so I have Josh McCallen here, and we're gonna talk more about what you just heard about Josh's background. But Josh, before we do that, we need to talk about something much more important than Viva May and everything you've accomplished. You have 10 children.
Yes, very blessed. 10 children. It's double digits. We so blessed, man. We were like 24 and a half years married. So we had the chance to do this one by one. My wife always says no shortcuts. We didn't have any twins in there, and we didn't get a chance to adopt. We actually always said we would be honored to adopt, but we didn't get a chance. We just we built our own team, and we're glad you've adopted recently, because I think that's a beautiful ministry and mission in life.
It is. Thank you. 10 children, biological children, all from your wonderful wife.
She's the saint. Yeah, man.
So what's the age range? What's youngest, oldest today?
21-year-old lady and a little guy who's one. So 21 to 1. 6 ladies, 4 dudes. Very happy about that.
So roughly every 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, at first, well, we could go into all baby. We can talk a lot about children and childhood, because I share a passion with you about legacy, and that's one of the crises. But listen, I was at a GoBundance event, which I'm so glad you're part of GoBundance now, and years ago, and I was at this thing, and they were talking all about our legacy as our children. Our legacy is our children. We have to pour into our children, and they all have 1 or 2 kids, which is beautiful, or 3 or 4. And then it gets to me. I had 9 at the time. I'm thinking, I'm like the billionaire of babies in this room. So I started joking that of all of you guys that are successful, we're the billionaires of babies.
Wow. So 1-year-old now brings you to 10. Is 10 the magic number? Were you guys done?
Well, Mom finally
for another one next year.
Well, Mom was from a big family. I was from 2. I have 1 brother. And we grew up in a really humble situation. We share some similarities to your story. Dad was gone, but my mom had a poor girl, had a stroke at 27. So wow. I remember when we first met my wife's family, and she's 1 of 10. Okay, so wow. There you go. There's the secret, right? Melanie's 1 of 10, and she had a baby sister who was like 2 years old when I met Melanie, and I'm like watching this baby kid walk around on the top of a coffee table, and I'm thinking, oh my God, kids can walk on coffee tables? That's allowed in this world? I was so out of practice of children. I don't know if I even held a child since I was a child. So boom, we're married, and slowly but surely we start getting 1, 2. There was a while there where we only had 2 or 3. So everybody thought we were normal, and now they know we're not normal, and I'm okay with it.
Wow. So I don't know if we ever talked about this, and I'm sure I've never talked about it kind of in this format. So I grew up one of 4, but my mom ran a home daycare in my home. And Pennsylvania law says you can have 6 children that aren't yours, in your home with 1 caregiver. So I grew up generally in a house of 10 kids, and I was the oldest, because my mom would have young kids in the house. Sure. So I'd have 9 other children, including my 3 siblings, pretty much all the time growing up. So it's chaos with 10 kids in a house.
But so you have the privilege of, I always say, then you, like my children, get to be you were raised the old-fashioned way, like figure it out. Okay, you got to take care of yourself. And I think that's the blessing and the gift we're giving to our kids, right? I mean, there's no chance to do helicoptering parenting. There's just not possible. So don't worry about it. They're going to learn how to take a bump, cut their finger on something, and break a bone here and there. It's okay. We're going to get through it, and they're going to remember that old Stoic philosophy that the obstacle is the way. So they're going to end up being better off for a few struggles that they naturally create for themselves, which is okay.
Well, and I know you're an avid reader, and that's a good plug there. Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. That's a great book and a great message.
Such a great book, man. I've read it multiple times, and I talk about it a lot, because his whole point in that book, if you haven't read it, friends, by the way, this show, or maybe just relationship with you, Don, has put me into my new favorite show, which is Chasing the Lion, if I'm saying it right. Read that one twice with the kids, even on Audible on a trip. And that changed my life too. But before then, I loved Ryan Holiday's deep reflections on, are challenges a bad thing, or are they pointing you in the direction to your mission in life?
Yeah, well said. I mean, I'm usually the one plugging books here. You're taking the cake. Yeah, Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson is a classic book that I actually just read again last week, because I read it.
Good.
I read it every Thanksgiving for probably 8 years now. It's phenomenal. Yeah. So I'm glad you picked it up, and I've read it a couple times.
Yeah, you pointed us into that, but there's something confusing. There's two books that he wrote that are almost the same title, and I have
Yeah.
both of them, so I get confused which one had which. But either way, if you haven't read that one, please, guys, ladies, grab that one. You got to. It will be. It's so edifying. I'm trying to think. His whole point is a lot like The Obstacle is the Way, right? I mean, it really is. The challenge of chasing a lion into a den is crazy. And you'll need God-sized support. And it's a God-sized goal, so you're going to need God. You're going to know it wasn't all you, was his message. A little different than Ryan's message, but we were blessed by that, buddy. I kept talking about that for a while.
So this was definitely we're off script here a little bit, but you got me feeling like called to now to talk about Lions Chase and
Do it.
Lion Chaser, Chase Lions, what the book's called, but he's got what he calls the Lions Chaser's Manifesto, and I have this on the wall of my office and in my home. A lot of DLP team members have this as their screensaver on their computer screens. We've read this book as a company a bunch of times, so I'm just gonna take 1 minute. I'm gonna read this Manifesto.
I need to hear this.
Yeah, it's just so powerful. So again, book Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson, and the Lions Chaser's Manifesto is this: quit living as if the purpose of life is to arrive safely at death. Run to the roar. Set God-sized goals. Pursue God-given passions. Go after a dream that is destined to fail without divine intervention. Stop pointing out problems. Become part of the solution. Stop repeating the past. Start creating the future. Face your fears. Fight for your dreams. Grab opportunity by the mane and don't let go. Live like today is the first day and the last day of your life. Burn sinful bridges. Blaze new trails. Live for the applause of nail-scarred hands. Don't let what's wrong with you keep you from worshiping what's right with God. Dare to fail. Dare to be different. Quit holding out. Quit holding back. Quit running away. Chase the lion. Just so powerful. I mean, if you ever need some motivation, you read that. You can search it on Google, pull it up. Lions Chaser Manifesto. It's powerful stuff.
Would you go to the sentence a few sentences ago? It says, "Don't focus on what's wrong with you. Focus on what? What's the opposite?"
Yep. Don't let what's wrong with you keep you from worshiping what's right with God.
That reminds us of something we do in our training, and we're going to get into our VMA company.
Please.
But in our training, we teach each week. Today, I'm here at one of our properties to do a personal in-person training with our staff that I don't get to see every week. It's down in Maryland, and we're going to teach that we seek 3 virtues as a company. And one of the quick, I know we were going to get to this eventually, but I'll hit it real quick. Viva May is the heart of our management company. So we're different than some we do raise capital. We have 330 investors as of today. So we have a good number of accredited investors, but we love that. And we built that into its own business. But our core competency was operations. It wasn't just raising capital. So our operations were why we do what we do. And we named that Viva May. Viva May means in French to revive the soul. Well, we have a motto when we interview people, and I can't say we're even perfect at this because we have like 240 people at the 2 properties that work with us, but they're not supposed to even get to the point of being offered a waiter job if they don't want the 3 virtues. And we make it really clear that we're about to tell you 3 virtues, 3 Viva May virtues, and we're going to say, and this is kind of me modeling how we're supposed to say it in our interview process. It doesn't make you a bad person if you don't want to live these 3 virtues. It just means you're going to be really uncomfortable here because this is the only culture we want. And we're working hard to give it to you. And we promise everybody that already is here that we won't let anybody on the team that doesn't want them. But we make a distinction. It doesn't mean we're perfect. And even though you and I say things like that, I've heard many of your talks, I'm sure we're both, stones can be cast at us in our glass houses. We do make mistakes, and maybe someone feels slighted here or slighted there. We are probably making a mistake. Maybe even right now I'm making a mistake, but we're still going to strive for we're not going to always focus on what's wrong with us. We're going to strive for what we believe we're called to do. So the virtues are simple, and I think they work in most companies. Joy, you got to bring joy of service to this team. If you don't like this type of work, whatever the role is we're offering you, please do not take it. It'll hurt your heart. Humility as a strength. We want we ask you, will you seek humility with us? Doesn't mean you're a perfect person. You don't have humility, but you're seeking it. And we go into why that's important, and it creates a team and a esprit de corps, and the dignity of the person is respected at the beginning of the conversation, blah, 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 blah. And the third is, will you make this work your ministry? And we say the word ministry. This came to us about 8 years ago when I was running my first of 3 resorts for another partner. And we were getting our teeth kicked in because it was seasonal, it was luxury, it was hard to do. It was the New Jersey shores, one of the top hotels in the whole state at the time. Actually, before we were a top hotel, we were one of the worst hotels. And so this period of time moving from bad operations to good operations, all focused on reinvesting in the team, a training program of why we do what we do. So we used to say, yeah, I would love for you to be the world's best chef and cook, and I'd love for you to be the world's best waitress and waiter. But before we worry about the technical skills, let's ask you, do you understand why we're doing what we're doing? And for us, it's a ministry. And that came to us because, we would watch the impact that you can have on a guest by treating them with their dignity. They have dignity, and we didn't give it to them. They just have it. We just have to look at it. And then we say, what a ministry for us in the world of secular work is simply defined. And we had to really work on this because it's in all our documents. And I really wanted it to be articulated so it can crisscross all cultures, all religions, everything, right? So we say ministry for us is a spiritual word, and it's meant to jar you a little bit when you're being interviewed, like, oh, do I really want what these guys want? And here's how we define it. It means doing simple tasks for a spiritual reason. And so we'll go to the next step. What spiritual reason? We believe everyone has infinite dignity and worth, and we want the work we're doing to be a means to show them love. So the work of delivering a delicious dinner or a glass of wine or a seat out on the dock at this marina we have down here in Maryland, that's the task. But it's not so that you enjoy it's not so that you got a seat. It's so that you felt loved while you were here. And it's amazing how powerful that is for the team. My wife always said, when she heard us talk about this for years before she joined our company, she probably thought I was just giving a motivational speech or something like that. And then she started giving the speeches, and then she started being with our teammates. And she's like, I think the first impact we're having here is on our teammates, by giving them a chance to feel good, humble pride in the quality of work they're doing. Because you remember, we get to work with people that are not necessarily the highest regarded in society. My friends are the dishwashers. My friends are the bus boys. Or we don't have bus boys. We have fireplace attendants and bar hops and bar porters. So it's a much cooler name than bus boy, but it's the same work. We just clean up after you. And we light fires, which is pretty cool because we have more fire pits per square foot than anybody in the country. We have like 22 on one property. And they're all natural, and they're all being lit at all times, and you have to pay to sit at them. Sorry to say that, but it's a great experience, right? So the work of lighting that fire, and I stop those guys all the time because I'm going deep on this one, Don. I hope you don't mind. This past weekend, we're in the middle of this winter wonderland, but it's not spelled winter. It's called Vintner, meaning winemaker wonderland. It's at Renault Winery. It's not far from all you guys if you live near Philly. I live in Philly and I drive there every day. So it's out in New Jersey, never know winery. But so we hire a bunch of people right now because we're busier right now than we are any other time of the year, even though it's winter. And this dude was hired. He's got the beanie, tough guy kind of, what do you call it, knit hat. He looks good. He's got a nice jacket on that had our logos on it. He's a stockier, stronger dude. And he's got that thick jaw. And why am I describing him? Well, because he's kind of intimidating looking, right, Don? I mean, he looks like he'll take you outside behind the woodshed and teach you a lesson, right? He looks like a bouncer, not a server. And I said to him, hey, may I ask your name? He's like, Eric. Okay, hey, Eric. Glad to have you on the team. So glad to meet you. You're doing a great job because you're hustling, you're moving around, fires are being lit. I said, but you know what? I got to talk to you about what we do here. We're actually here to serve them and make them feel warm and comfortable. So you got to make sure you use a resting smile face because with your tough jaw and your stocky body, you look like you're here to beat us up. Okay. and I said, that works real well back at college with your guy buddies. They want to be intimidated by you. I think that works really well. But here, your smile is the invitation to ask for help. So if you don't have a smile, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm a little bit afraid of you. He's like, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And this is the first time I've ever been called sir at work. For some reason, this guy must have been a military guy or something. I just got to meet him that day. This is Saturday. And I'm thinking, This guy said sir 6 times. He must be from the military, which again shows me why he's so tough looking, right? But he got it actually. And then he moved on, and we teach a technique, Don. This will be my last teaching. And anybody listening here, use these tools. They work in business, they work in your marriage. We teach our team to have a resting smile face. Have you ever heard of an RBF? It's the opposite of an RSF, right? So an RBF is the, bad word. That's how some people look at it. They have that tough guy, angry face, a woman or so. Here we say you must have a resting smile face, because that's the invitation for a guest to ask you for anything, right? Where's the restroom? How do I get on the ice? Because we have an ice rink. All these cool things. So these are some of the small techniques we teach each week, but each week we just meet to remind each other that this is actually our ministry, and let's just embrace that and wait till you see how rewarding it is for each of us as servers. Anyway, so that's kind of our teaching.
A lot deeper. I spent multiple years as a busboy. That was my title. I didn't have any cooler title before. Waiting tables and it's he said it's a tough business, and these types of training and ministry that you're doing is certainly not common. It's pretty awesome. So you and again, Viva May is, you referenced it, Revive the Soul is the name of your management company.
Correct.
And you said what, 240 team members now working?
Yeah, full time. I imagine it's south of 80, probably full time when you count managers. But the rest are all people that work with us on the weekends for weddings or events or ice skating. We have everything from high school kids to 70-year-old people, and so it's really dynamic. It's a lot of people, and we have a mandatory once a week get together, and it is paid, meaning we clock in, we sit down. I always say we probably invest more in training than any other hospitality company, but our yield is much higher than most management companies. So if an analyst was looking at it, they'd say it was a worthwhile investment. For us, for Melanie and I, we always said when we started the team, and we say Viva May means 3 souls, by the way. We're a value add to the core, right? So we do usually want to buy something that needs some love. So we want to do value add on the story and the soul of the building. We try to buy things that have a soul. Someone put their life into that building. Usually that is the case, Don. You've been around a lot of buildings, and you find out that especially eclectic buildings, like someone literally saved up their whole life, built that little hospitality business, and then lost it when they gave it to the next generation or something like that. But they poured their whole heart and soul into it. And we say, there's a story there. So we always start there. We build out for their story and their soul, and there creates some economic value for real estate. But then we say, what about the soul of the teammates? And then, of course, the whole thing is to serve the soul of the guest. And we use this word soul all the time. And, my couple ways I explain soul is I say, have you ever read a great novel from the olden days on the like all the way back to when Columbus would have found America, and the big boats, and every boat and captain's log, ship, I should say, starts with 420 souls on board, 115 souls on board. Airplanes used to count the number of guests flying as souls. So when you're in something, legacy, the typical explanation was to call them souls. And I always said, man, I wish we could get that back, because that is a beautiful way to remember that we're not just a customer, we're not just a worker, but we have the same infinite dignity and worth, each of us, from the teammate at the top who's called a servant leader to the person who just got hired to light fires. Which, as a sidebar, can you believe we pay people to light fires? Is that the best job? It's the best job in the world, man. They walk around lighting fires. They're the opposite of firemen. I love it.
So one of those properties that you manage through Viva May, and I've gotten to know a little bit more here over the last couple months, is Renault Winery. You talked a little bit earlier, the big event you've got going on. I think it's Egg Harbor is the technical town in New Jersey. Is that correct?
Yeah, Egg Harbor City. There's actually 3 Egg Harbors, believe it or not. But yes, it's Egg Harbor City, New Jersey, outside of Atlantic City, ironically. Yep. But in this rural section, agricultural section, you might not even know is there.
And it's called Renault Winery, spelled RENAULT winery.com. And you were telling me you do more weddings than any other venue in America?
Yeah, and when we're on shows like yours, Don, we talk like this. But when we're not, when we're on the TV, like we had the a lot of media here last week, and we're on morning shows, hopefully. We don't typically talk about how many weddings we do. You know why? Because the number one way to sell a wedding is to make sure that person feels like they're the only one having a wedding there. But
Yep.
for us who think in terms of economics, we set out to build a robust wedding business on top of a big resort, 240 acres, one of these great golf courses, great hotels, great restaurants.
A
And we have
winery.
it's a winery for 157 years, of course.
Wow.
But wineries are not what I typically would invest in because they're mostly dangerous from an economic point of view. There's a lot of costs. But weddings are the opposite end. They're high margin. And then in between is all the other businesses we do. So we do more weddings annually than anybody in the country. And I think the world, because America is bigger than the world, right? We typically do more of everything at every one venue. So we'll do 337 weddings this year. And 3 of those months of this year were limited by Corona, the COVID. So Katie bar the door as we grow. We're selling on average almost 350 to 400 weddings a year. We're selling for future dates.
Wow. Amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Google it right now. Whoever's a skeptic, there's great skeptics. My wife's a skeptic. Have your wife Google, your husband, if you're listening. Check to see the largest wedding venues in America. You will not find anybody that crosses over 300.
Wow. Incredible. So you own these incredible resorts that have soul, that you're investing in ministry with your staff and
Yep.
Growing your management company. I know you have some pretty big goals of scaling this.
We do.
All over the place. I'd love to hear a bit about that. The other side of your business is where you connect in your podcast, which is amazing. I want you to talk a little about where you've done 200 plus, being one of those episodes. We talk about pairing human capital with, you call it cash capital, to work together and create something bigger. So love to understand what that means. I know that's kind of somewhat sums up your business model in part.
It does.
Love to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, it's a pleasure to do these podcasts, by the way, Don, because we do get to get really high celebrities like yourself. I mean, you're hard to get a few minutes with. So when we have a podcast with thousands of listeners, all of a sudden we get to have Don Wenner on the show. So it's a big guest. We've done a lot of CPA strategists because one of my goals is to make sure the capital is efficiently deployed and we don't have to waste money on taxes that we legally are not required to pay. So we have great CPAs on there. We have business owners. We have a lot of people that are private investors talking about their life. So human capital to me is just this thought. As a matter of fact, we changed our HR department the day we started this company. We said, I can't do HR, but what about human capital as a department? And I said, well, what does that imply to our teammates? What does it imply to everybody on the outside? It shows that we actually think if you invest in them, just like I'd invest in any capital equipment or any capital outlay, then you will have a leveraged return. So there is a business reason we call it that. But I also do it, and we have a show called Capital Hacking, which is not hacking in the shortcut way. It's hacking in the sense of see the code like Keanu Reeves did in The Matrix. There is a code out there of how this works. You've cracked it years ago, and you did it by selling first. Then you started building flip houses. You bought the first house from that older lady. I love your story. And then all of a sudden you started to see the code. It's almost like that story where you bought that that woman's house you were helping. It helped you open up another door to the code. And then you said, well, wait a second, if I raise money, give everybody back their money, and I keep some money, that's a win-win. That's a positive economic transaction. So then you start saying, well, wait a second, people have money. I don't have money. I'm a young Don Wenner. I don't have money. But now other people have money, but don't have the connections Don Wenner, the young man, had. And so you just cracked the code periodically. And now you're at a whole nother level, buying a bank. I don't know if that's public, but you're really cracking the code. And I know why you're doing each thing. I mean, from an outsider's point of view, it's really compelling. And then there's this other code you cracked where in your other business, you lend to partners like us, but you won't do it or you don't want to do it unless they're in the elite system. Now, I'm sorry to say this, that it's like my reason I joined. I joined the elite system, which is the elite execution system, which is your program, because I thought it was so ingenious. I remember sitting there with my friends, I'm like, there's no way this guy thought this through this way. I hadn't known you yet, but you thought, well, if we're going to loan money to people, the number one priority is they protect my investors' money. They pay it back. They do what they promised. Well, how am I going to know they're going to do it unless I know they have great operating systems? So it compelled me so much that we joined, and we've probably sent a few people your way too. But anyway, all that to be said, the podcast works as a great fun thing. We've had famous people, Robert Kiyosaki, Tom Wheelwright. We've had you. We've had, dozens, Howard Elrod, all kinds of great people. Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets. Josh Dorkin's actually an investor with us from Bigger Pockets, but hasn't been on the show yet. I got to fix that. Anyway, so we've had a wonderful show there. And I always say it's teaching me to crack my own code. Like when I talk to guys like you, where you say, wait a second, you should probably be looking at doing evergreen funds for your investors, Josh, because maybe that's the most cost-effective way for everybody. I'm like, really? And it took me 3 months now, and I've been reading about it. I'm like, I got to do it. I got to follow his idea there. That's a great idea. All these different cracked code components come from conversation with someone who's ahead of where you are, but on the path where you're going. And I always say it's like an audio mastermind. If you join Capital Hacking Podcast, it's like we're going through this in real time, and we're cracking the code for passive investors, for business owners. So, but yeah, sorry, I might have gone long on that, but that's why we talk about cash capital and human capital. I think it always begins with human capital. Even your investors all started with Don Wenner helping that older lady sell her house. It always started with human capital. And once you flip the switch, because a guy like me grew up in a very humble situation with welfare. The guy like me might think we're not allowed to build a business because we didn't have a relative that can support the initial launch. And that's just a broken way of thinking, right? I mean, add value, develop skills internally, read books, listen to great audio masterminds like Capital Hacking and Impact with Don Wenner. And slowly but surely, you get in the right place mentally. That's what we're talking about.
Love it. Well said. Really, really well said. And, Capital Hacking, I know, is top 1% of podcasts out there. Incredible following.
Yep.
You've done just an awesome job. So please download that. I know you can find it anywhere you download podcast, Capital Hacking, Josh McCallen. So Josh, you talked about how you joined our elite membership, which is focused on partnering with great operators such as yourself, helping them to achieve, pretty big goals, helping them achieve, scaling both in terms of revenue growth, but also being able to scale a profitable business and profitable for everybody involved, not just financially, but to your point, and really make an impact. So I know you didn't join just because you like hanging out with us, or certainly not because we could provide you some capital. It's because you have some pretty big goals you want to achieve.
Yes.
And I feel we can help through what we've uncovered and the code we've cracked so far, in working together, which is exciting. As I kind of touched on earlier, we just here recently funded kind of your next phase of expanding Renault Winery, which I'm pretty excited about. But love to open up here. I'd love for you to kind of tell everybody, what's the goal of Viva May, of accountable equity. What are you trying to accomplish? Where are you taking your organization to in the years ahead?
So before we had the chance to do those two companies, and before I had a chance to be a principal, I was a partner in a very nice, growing, successful hospitality business, where I learned most of these skills of changing the focus to ministry and all that stuff. And so I would go to all these events because we had a growth goal. I was in my 40s. He was in his late 60s, early 70s, my partner. And he kept saying, let's keep growing. Let's keep growing. So I would go to events with, really big conferences. I'd meet the heads of Marriott and things like that. And I was around all the hospitality people. So I started learning I stumbled across a shocking fact that will impact you as well, Don. We all know Marriott's the big behemoth now in the world of hospitality. They themselves, under their flag, have over 5,500 units, of which they own almost none, which was surprising, right? That they moved out of real estate ownership, put that all in a REIT, a public REIT, and then of course you and I could buy one tomorrow as well. But then they moved to just the training and operations. Okay, so that's what Viva May is. We don't own anything as Viva May. We operate, and we're a hardcore operator. That's what we want to be great at. And then we said, we stumbled across another fact that two other crazy things about hospitality that I didn't realize when I was building those first few. One, that I'm going to name two businesses. You've heard of, I'll name three. Have you heard of Marriott? Yes.
Of course.
Have you heard of Ritz-Carlton?
Yes.
Have you heard of Four Seasons?
Yes.
Markedly, Four Seasons, again, a crazy startup business out of the blue years ago, actually only like 30 or 40 years, 45, 50 years old. they've impacted the entire world of hospitality. Now, they're not what we're trying to be. They're 5-star to 6-star, which means extremely expensive, high level of service, low profitability, actually. We're trying to be what's called 4-star, which feels like 5-star in many ways, amenities, rich, lifestyle experiences, but profitable because we do back off on the things that take away your profit, which are like butlers and stuff like that. But there's only 115 of those in the world done. So over here, 5,500 Marriotts, we've all heard of them. Four Seasons, 115 last time I checked. And yet they've both are common knowledge to most people, and they both have dramatically changed hospitality for their own contribution. So we have a theory, and we started our business with a purpose. Our purpose is to impact hospitality because of what it does for people. And for us, when we stumbled into the word ministry 8 years ago, then we started studying the etymology of words. And what does the word hospitality come from? And I'm going to just answer it real quick, and you'll see why I think there's so much impact available. It's cool to be on your show and talk about impact. This is what we always used to say years ago. If Four Seasons can be a household name and have impacted the way 5- and 6-star hospitality is delivered to the world over, then we can too. So Viva May at 100 properties, which is our goal by 2035, will change the way hospitality is done. What we will do is we will reinsert the word ministry into the type of hospitality delivered. Why? Because we didn't come up with it. I was surprised to find this out. We did not come up with it. We Googled, we did the etymology. The root word is hospes in Latin. So us English speakers, we would have been saying some version of hospes 500 years ago. And guess what that word translates to today in modern English? Hospitals, hospitality, and hospice was the same word. So hospice has never been confused to be anything but a ministry, right? I mean, hospitals could be a ministry, maybe not. Hospitality, nobody knows it's a ministry. But hospice, this is where medicine's no longer going to turn the corner. Only forgiveness, love, and mercy is going to finish life in the peaceful way. So if hospice is the most pure way to do simple tasks like bathe them with a napkin, feed them water, get them ice, but you're not doing it so they have a chip of ice or water or brown. They're doing it so they know their dignity. They feel they're loved. So if they can do it, we can do it, right? If they can do it with these trained hospice workers, why not I try to change Eric, the tough guy fireman, firefighter. No, he's the opposite of firefighter, the fire starter. Fire pit attendant. I think that's what we call him. All I know is he's got the best job. So if I can change Eric to realize his work is to show love, that's actually what the hospice lady's doing by giving you a chip of ice, or the hospice guy. So wow, wait till 2035 when that concept gets back into the vernacular of American hospitality and maybe the world's hospitality. You can get there with 100 buildings. Isn't that shocking? I mean, think of how little that is. It's only 100 buildings. You know, I always say that people say to me, well, you only bought 2 in 2 years and we're about to buy a third, we hope, in Texas. How are you going to get to 100? And people ask me that every once in a while. I go, here's how I believe it's going to work out. There'll be days where we buy this property and it's owned by Grandpa Joe. And Grandpa Joe also owns 3 in the Keys of Florida and 1 on the eastern shore of Maryland. And we stumbled into that one. That's the one we saw. We offered to buy it. And he goes, whoa, I'm an old guy. You want to buy them all? Yes, we'll buy them all. And then we'll buy another 5-pack, another 6-pack. And it will happen like that because that's how our type of assets are held. Typically, the families that own what we're buying.
Awesome. I love it. So Josh, how do people get in touch with you to learn more about any which way they can be a part of your ministry and your vision? And with that said, any last message you want to leave?
No, dude, thank you so much, Don. It's always, I said when we got invited to be on your show, one of the best parts was just spending a few more minutes with you. For you guys who haven't been to one of Don's events yet, if you have, great, you'll get it. The dude is moving and grooving at all times. So most diligent man I've ever met. So thank you for spending time with me and our company that everybody can join. If you're an accredited investor, is Accountable Equity, 2 words. I always said, if we're going to raise money, we're not doing, it's a different business. I think you get it. As soon as if you and I are good at running a construction project, perhaps that's fine. But as soon as we take money, now we're in the private equity business and we owe it to our investors to build a whole company for their purpose. So Accountable Equity, it has the name I wanted it to have, meaning I like that name for me. So that is its mission too, by the way.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Josh McCallen, been great having you on here. Reach out to him, Accountable Equity. Also go to Capital Hacking podcast. Really been a pleasure. Thanks, Josh.
It's a pleasure being here, buddy. Thank you.
This has been Don Wenner on the Impact Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. You can check out our other episodes by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube, or check us out online by going to impactwithdon.com. I encourage and challenge you to make an impact.